What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com, and we're kicking off a new week here, and market's giving us some volatility. So we're getting volatility all the way across the board, everything from the indices here to individual equity names on earnings, second-day earnings, continuations, all of that, and even the likes of things like Bitcoin and gold and bonds have been moving here pretty well over the past couple of days. So, with bonds, a 2 points and 21 ticks worth of range. We're talking this is almost a $3,000 move out of the bond market per contract today. And just taking a look at, something like the Nasdaq here, for example, a 339 point range on the day. My math is not going to be the greatest at the moment, but 340 points. What are we talking, like $6,800 per contract here? That's a big move, right? $6,800 per contract in the Nasdaq. My math could be off on that, but it's a big move, and we're getting a lot of volatility, a lot of names moving. And the good news for that is that we have even more coming up on the docket here for this week. So this is our earnings calendar coming into the week. Coca-Cola, Verizon kicking off tomorrow morning. Microsoft, Google, Snap, Visa coming out after that. And then for the rest of this week, we've got Meta, IBM, Amazon. This one right here is kind of interesting for me. Enphase, ENPH. Earnings are coming up here. But this thing on Friday just decided to get like a massive gap to the downside here, like 20-some points, right? Down under the $100 number. So I'm not really too sure what to make of this, kind of coming into earnings season. I don't think that I was expecting this type of move prior to that. And now I'm kind of confused, like, hey, does this thing, try and rally this back, or is it a continuation, or was there some sort of leak? Obviously, I don't know the news on it. But we're getting some interesting action here, to say the least. Now, I just put up a video here on my Instagram talking through how I fumbled the bag today on the Nasdaq. We can touch on it real quickly, just to get it out of the way. Game plan this morning, under 618.50s. Look for a retest. Take that down into 529.75s. Let that break 520s, which would have been this pre-market low down in here. We did that. We traded 514 quarters and then rally back into 618.50s. If you want to see that full video, it's on my Instagram, showing the morning write-up, showing all of the things, the levels, and everything else that kind of came into play with that, right? I don't really want to relive this one anymore because I fumbled it pretty bad. But it begs the question here of, did we set the low for this week already, being that it's Monday, or is there potentially more downside left here? So I got a couple different thoughts on this that I want to talk through. So we'll kick it off with a SPY on this one. Number one, I don't necessarily think the low is in for this week. I also, at the same time, don't necessarily think the high is in for this week. It's only Monday, right? The key level right now is going to be this 424.19 level for the SPY. We had this level coming into the day. And you can see we ultimately managed to rally back and test that level here. That same level for the S&Ps here will be 42.78.50s. And the same level that was for those two markets in the Nasdaq, or for the SPY and the S&Ps in the Nasdaq, was 14.776.75s, right? So in the S&Ps, we managed to rally up and just kind of test it. In the Nasdaq, we managed to rally up, get through it a little bit here, but not really able to hold it into the close, ultimately coming back down here, putting in a pretty decent green bar on the day after, 3 or 4 days to the downside from last week. But as we start to kind of, switch over here, I didn't mark up the IWM, but if we look at the Russell here, that level is way up here at 1707.50. So Russell, much, much weaker, actually ends up closing under the opening print here for today. And then the Dow, same thing. So Dow had a level, again, it's not even pictured. That same level kind of across the board was 33,442. You can see we couldn't even quite get there today. We were about 100 points shy, and then managed to come down and close this week as well. So and WEAK, not necessarily the whole week, in the Dow. So we've got S&Ps, Nasdaq kind of leading the move. It was more so Nasdaq today, most likely on the backs of some things like Apple here. So Apple was coming right off of this 170.55 level pretty well. We talked about this one this morning as it came down, rallied back through it, right in through here around opening print. I talked about, hey, this is probably a potential long. It is counter trend. Yes, we do have the markets doing the moves and all the things, but a pretty decent move back in here nonetheless on the day, right? I thought that longs overall were fairly just tough for the day. And what I mean by that is there's definitely a couple standouts, but when we look at something like Netflix here, Netflix, I thought this thing was going to move this morning right up through here around 405s, 406s. You can see we open, we come back down. I don't know what's up with this opening print. Seems a little off, but we came down, kind of got the gap fill, started rallying back, and then, nice little test of the opening print there. And this probably should have moved higher from here, just considering what the overall markets were doing at that time, which was rallying out of those lows, right? So, again, I thought that this would be kind of maybe the one today or at some point this week, and I still do think that it is. Ultimately, just needed to come down here. It looks like it needed to test these 399.10s, and they got a pretty decent bounce from here. So, while, yes, Netflix didn't do what it was supposed to do early on in the day, it actually managed to hold up and rally kind of into the close with the overall markets, S&Ps, Nasdaq, Russell, and Dow, kind of getting a pullback there into the end of the day. So it does have a little bit of relative strength and all of that kind of taking place here. So a lot of stuff we just covered, a lot of little thoughts, a lot of little things to pick up on this video. The big thing right now that I'm seeing here, and just kind of to recap some of those things is, yes, S&Ps, Nasdaq are the strongest, Russell and Dow being the weakest here. We've traded up into this 424.19s. I'm kind of at a standstill here where I want to get a little bit more data on the charts. And one of the things in which I want to see from that is a retest of this 424.19 level out of the SPY. And what do we do from there? Are we able to actually get through that level, hold, try and start to rally, or do we just come up, spike this level, and then reject from there? And another thing that may in fact happen, which we did have this happen last week, which I pointed out inside of the Discord as well, is we did this same exact thing where the S&Ps came up, traded the level. Nasdaq did not. S&Ps actually put the new highs in, and then we sold off for the rest of the week from there. So we may see something very, very similar to that through the rest of this week. Most likely that's probably going to come on something like a Wednesday, right? We may in fact have to wait until then to really get a clearer picture out of these indices. But at the meantime, we do have a number of good individual equity names with these earnings that are coming up here that I think we can play off of and allow this indices charts to develop. So a little bit of a longer video there. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of different little things kind of pulling pieces together here in order for this to come together. So we'll see what this ultimately wants to do here for the rest of the week. But if you missed and fumbled the bag like I did today, there is going to be more opportunity this week. That is for sure, with given the volatility we're getting. It's just a matter of being patient and waiting for that. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys on tonight's free video. Take care, hope it helps, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.